So we have discussed about the calculation of the forward rate and the future rate, or the future rate what we can say from the spot rate whatever we have. So depending upon the relationship between the future rate or the forward rate and the spot rate, generally the shape of the yield curve will be decided. So the yield curve which shows the relationship between the yield to maturity and the term to maturity, and depending upon the shape of the yield curve, we can say whether the long-term interest rate in comparison to the short-term interest rate will be more or it will be less. But there are some theories which tries to explain the how the long-term interest rate is determined if you have the short-term interest rate, because short-term interest rate forecasting is relatively easier in comparison to the forecasting of the long-term rates. So there are certain theories which tries to explain the determination of the long-term interest rate given the short-term interest rate in that particular point of time. So the first theory is basically our first hypothesis, what we can say. These are popularly called as the term structure interest rate theories. Term structure interest rate theories. So which particular theory is trying to explain the relationship between the long-term and short-term interest rate, or the determination of the long-term interest rate given the short-term interest rate in that particular period. So the first hypothesis or the theory, what we can say, that is called the expectations hypothesis, or the expectation theory. But basically you can say there is no problem in that. So what this expectation hypothesis basically tells? According to this expectations hypothesis, the shape of the yield curve basically depends upon the interest rate expectations of the market participants. How the market participants expect about the interest rate, that basically will decide the shape of this particular yield curve. What exactly it says? That any long-term interest rate, so we can write that the long-term interest rate represents the geometric, you can also say arithmetic, but generally we say always we take it the geometric mean of current and future 1 year interest rates expected to prevail over the maturity. So the long-term interest rate basically is nothing but the geometric mean of current and future 1 year interest rates expected to prevail over the maturity of that particular bond or maturity of that particular issue. Okay. So that means the term structure basically involves a series of short-term and long-term interest rate, and out of this we are trying to find out what will be the long-term interest rate for that particular security. So if I write it in a equational form, how basically it shows. For example, if I write 1 plus Rn at the period t, that will be equal to n means the maturity period the term to maturity of that particular issue. That is basically is nothing but, we can say it is 1 plus R1 at the period T into your 1 plus, later I can write R1, it is T plus 1, then 1 plus R2, sorry, 1 plus R1, it is T plus 2, and so on, up to your 1 plus T plus N R1 to the power 1 by N, to the power 1 by N. So here your Rn is basically what? The actual long-term rate, actual long-term rate. Then your N is equal to the term to maturity in years, term to maturity in years. Then you have another term, that is TR1, capital R. The capital R, that basically says the current 1 year rate. Then you have T plus I R1, the small r1, that basically represents the expected 1 year rate or yield during the future period. That future period is represented as T plus I. Okay. And these rates are basically nothing but these expected future 1 year rates. What basically this one? This is these expected future 1 year rates are generally referred as the forward rates. These are the forward rates. So if you are trying to compute the 1 period forward rate beginning at time T plus 1 or T plus N, then the implied term structure at time T, if you want to calculate, then how you can calculate? It is basically nothing but 1 plus T plus N R 1T, that will be your 1 plus T R1T into 1 plus T plus 1 R1T, then your 1 plus T plus 2 R1 R1T, and so on up to your 1 plus T plus N R1T, 1 plus T plus N R1T. Okay, divided by your 1 plus TR1T into your 1 plus T plus 1 R1T into 1 plus T plus 2 R1T up to your 1 plus T plus N minus 1 R1T. So end of the day, it will give you this 1 plus T R N plus 1 to the power N plus 1 whole divided by 1 plus T R N to the power N. Then this is nothing but, it will give you your T plus N R1T will be 1 plus T Rn plus 1 to the power n plus 1 divided by your 1 plus T Rn to the power n minus 1. So this is what basically the concept, but I will give you an example that how basically this concept is used in that particular case. For example, if I tell you, let us take one numerical example. There is a, I'll give you a forward spot rate. Let this 5-year spot rate is 10%. Okay. Then your 4-year spot rate will be let 9%. Right? So if I will ask you, find out the forward 1-year rate 4 years from now. 4 years from now, which is implied by these spot rates. Then what will be the forward 1-year rate? 4 years from now. I've given you the 5-year spot rate. I've given you the 4-year spot rate. The question is find out the forward 1-year rate 4 years from now implied by these spot rates. How will you find out? Yes. Then what is this 10%? Notation wise. Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Priyansa, bolo. Notation wise, what will be this rate? It is T R5. Yes or no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Then this will be
TR4.
TR4. Then what basically you have to calculate? Your T plus N R1T. Are you getting my point? The forward rate, forward 1-year rate, 4 years from now. Then that will be your T plus N R1T. That will be how much? Hmm? 1 plus TR5 to the power 5 divided by 1 plus T R4 to the power 4 minus 1. Am I correct or not?
Yes, sir.
1 plus T Rn plus 1 to the power n plus 1 divided by 1 plus T Rn to the power n minus 1. Then that means it will be 1 plus 0.10 to the power 5 divided by 1 plus 0.09 to the power 4 minus 1. Okay. And let I have already calculated this. This will be 1.6105 divided by your 1.4116 minus 1. That will give you 14.09%. So what do we mean by this 14.09%? What is this 14.09%?
The rate between that fourth year and fifth year.
From now? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So this is the 1 year spot rate 4 years from now. That means this rate will prevail at the year number 5. Am I correct? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
In the 5th year, this interest rate basically will prevail 14.09%. So this particular concept or formula can be used to derive future rates for multiple years. So if the 2-year spot rate will prevail 3 years from now, would be calculated using the 3-year spot rate and 5-year spot rate. If I will ask you a question, find out the 2-year spot rate which will prevail 3 years from now, then how will you calculate? It can be calculated using the 3-year spot rate and the 5-year spot rate. So therefore, you can derive a general formula for this. Your general formula can be written as your T plus N R JT is equal to your 1 plus T R N plus J to the power N plus J divided by your 1 plus T R N to the power N, right? Whole to the power 1 by J minus 1. So this is what basically from the multiple periods the forward rates can be calculated. So if the forward rates whatever you are calculating, that is basically if the expectations for rising short-term rates in the future will be there, then you can find that there is a rising yield curve. If there is expectations for falling short-term rates in the future, that will cause the long-term rates to lie below the current short-term rate. So like that. So depending upon the expectations of the market participants or the investor, these particular rates basically will vary. So this is what basically we are trying to calculate using the expectations theory. We are trying to calculate what kind of rates will prevail from now for a particular bond or particular security in a particular maturity period. But there are certain assumptions this theory or this particular hypothesis takes. One is the always they assume that there is a perfectly competitive market, the investors are rational, there is no such transaction cost for investing in the market. Then there are certain, we can say that the investors have the perfect foresight, perfect expectations that what is going to happen in the future. And all the products which are traded in the market, they are substitute to each other. That means they are homogeneous. So all kinds of hypotheses basically this theory takes, or this kind of assumptions this theory takes. Then accordingly, this is the way this interest rates are calculated for a long-term security by using the spot rates which is available now and these forward rates which will be available that, in that particular point of time on the basis of the expectations of the investors. So therefore, if the long-term rate will be higher than the short-term rate, then obviously the yield curve will be upward sloping. So that means that will happen if the investors expect that the future short-term spot rates to be higher than the current short-term spot rate. Similarly, the long-term rate will be lower than the short-term rate. That means the yield curve will be downward sloping. when the investor will expect that the future short-term spot rates will fall below this current short-term spot rate. So if the no changes in the future short-term spot rates are expected, then the long-term and short-term rates will be equal, then the yield curve will be flat. So this is the way basically these expectations will work in that particular context. But here, one thing this particular theory could not consider, or maybe that is the major drawbacks of the theory. Here, whenever we talk about this, we generally always try to assume that, or we are basically assuming that there is no risk involved whenever you are investing in a long-term security in comparison to the short-term security. Because there is a chance that the price may be volatile, or the interest rate may change, the market conditions may change. So in that case, if you assume that the expectation theory does not consider the risk, it assumes a risk neutral world kind of thing. But in the practical sense, we know the long-term securities or long-term bonds are more price sensitive to interest rate changes than the short-term bonds. That already we have seen. So because of this, if you see, the prices of the long-term securities tend to be more volatile and therefore more risky. So if the prices of the long-term securities, because the price volatility is directly proportional to the So if the prices are more volatile, that means we are exposed to more risk whenever you are investing in the long-term securities. Then obviously we should also expect certain premium from this. So unless that premium is not given to us, then why somebody is going to invest in that? So keeping that thing in the mind, there is another theory which was developed, that is called basically the liquidity preference theory. So what do you mean by this liquidity preference theory? Liquidity preference theory is basically also called as the risk premium theory. So that basically tells there is a liquidity premium for long-term bonds over the short-term bonds. There is a risk premium or a liquidity premium always we will expect from a long-term bond, which will be over and above the short-term whatever the returns and yield the short-term bond is giving. So that's why this theory basically contends that uncertainty and volatility basically makes the investor to always reluctant to invest in the long-term bonds. So therefore, there should be some premium should be given to that particular investor to attract the investor to invest in that particular long-term bonds. So that's why this theory is generally considered to be an extension of the expectations hypothesis or the expectations theory. Why? Because the formal liquidity preference position basically or theory tells that liquidity premium always there in the yield for a longer term maturity bonds, and that should be always added to the expected future rates to arrive the long term yield. So the liquidity premium basically compensates the investor in the long term bonds for the added volatility, which is always inherent in the long term bonds compared to the short maturity bonds. So therefore, little bit modification we can make with that particular equation, whatever we have written. So we can write this 1 plus TRN is equal to your 1 plus TR1 into 1 plus T plus 1 R1 plus we can write L2, right? And so on up to your 1 plus T plus N minus 1 R1 cross Ln to the power 1 by N. This L terms basically represents the liquidity premiums in the different period. And these premiums are not same in the different periods. These premiums, the L's are not the same. And it is always expected to increase this premium with maturity. We always expect that this premium will increase with the maturity, because the volatility of the particular price of the bond will increase with the maturity. Okay. So in this case, what basically here we are trying to say, it highlights basically the preference for liquidity and the desire to minimize the sum of income risk and capital risk are the additional factor which determine the term structure interest rates. Given that the long-term bonds are more sensitive to the interest rate changes, there is more risk holding a long-term bond for one period. With the risk is increasing, the greater the bond's maturity. So therefore, the investor basically will hold a longer maturity bonds if they offer higher yields than the expected future rate, with the risk premium increasing with the term to maturity. So whatever interest rates we have calculated using the expectations theory, that is the rate which is not going to attract the investor to invest in the long-term bond. So with respect to that, some additional premium has to be added. Okay. So therefore, the yield curve is basically will be governed by the expected spot rate, which is basically equal to the forward rate plus the liquidity premium. And when the premium is increasing, obviously the maturity is increasing, the premium also will increase. So in overall, in a nutshell, I can say it is the interest rate which is calculated using the expectations theory plus your liquidity premium or the risk premium, that will basically give you the idea that how the long-term rates basically will be determined if you have the future current spot rates and the future forward rates are available with you. So now here if you see, these theories are more or less highly linked. So therefore, one theory can be called as the extension of the other theory. But there is another theory which tells that, or which tries to examine the relationship between the long-term and short-term interest rate using a different kind of hypothesis or using a different kind of concept. And that theory is basically called the market segmentation theory. So what this market segmentation theory basically tells? This theory basically tells the yield curve is determined by the supply and demand conditions which are unique to a particular market segment. That means this theory basically assumes that the markets are segmented by maturity. The markets are basically segmented with maturity. That means there is a short-term market and there is a long-term market. And the investor who are invested to or interested to invest in the short-term market, they may not be inclined to invest in the long-term market because the requirements are different. So I need money after 2 years, somebody else needs money after 10 years. So the requirements are different. So because of this, the market participants who basically tries to invest in the market, their taste, preference, opinion, they basically vary on the basis of the maturity segment. Some people are inclined to invest in the short-term securities. Some people are interested to invest in the long-term securities. That's why the interest rates are determined in that particular market on the basis of the supply and demand conditions of that particular segment only. So the factors which are affecting the long-term segment is not equal to the factor which is affecting the short-term segment. So this theory assumes that the markets are segmented by maturity. So another thing, the expectations theory tells that there is a substitution. The short-term bonds can be substituted with the long-term bond, or long-term bond can be substituted with the short-term bond. But this theory assumes that the short-term investor will substitute between the short-term securities, like your commercial paper, certificate of deposit, treasury bills, etc. And the long-term investor will substitute between the availability of the long-term securities, like government-dated securities or corporate bonds and all kinds of things. So because of that, there is a proper segment which basically works in that particular context. So that's why there is no such relationship between this long-term and short-term. It all depends upon the supply and demand conditions of that particular market. That will basically decide that what rate will prevail in that particular segment. For example, if you take the short-term corporate bonds, that will depends upon the business demand for short-term assets like current assets, inventories, account receivables, and all kinds of things, which are there from the company perspective. What is the short-term requirements? On the basis of the short-term requirements, they will demand that particular kind of securities. So how they will raise the money to fulfill their short-term requirements. So the demand for short-term bonds by the investor and the supply of the such bonds by the companies ultimately determine the short-term corporate bonds yield or their interest rate. So like that, if you go to a long-term bond market, so the companies who are trying to finance their long-term assets, for example, they want to go for a plant expansion, they want to buy some fixed assets, they will go for some acquisitions, big acquisitions. So in that case, they basically supply certain kind of bonds to fulfill their requirement. So the demand for such bonds basically comes from the different investors, either directly or indirectly, through the different institutions. For example, the pension funds, they invest in the long-term bonds, mutual funds, insurance companies, because their horizon period is quite long. The corporates are ready to issue the long-term bonds to fulfill their long-term requirements. And there are certain investors who need this particular kind of bonds because they want to invest for a longer term period because their liabilities or the horizon period is relatively long. So there the investors are different, and as well as the supplier also are different, because the objective of these kind of stakeholders are basically always not same. So therefore, these supply and demand forces from the long-term and short-term market, that will decide that what kind of interest rate will prevail. So that's why there is a unique or independent markets. The short-term markets are different than the long-term markets. So the short-term bond market is unaffected by the intermediate or long-term bond markets, and vice versa. So therefore, the investors and the borrowers have a strong need to match the maturities of their assets and liabilities within that particular segment or within that particular requirement. So because of this, we cannot expect that there is any kind of straightforward relationship exists between the long-term bond market and the short-term bond market. So that is the basic notion or basic assumption what this market segmentation theory basically talks about. So this theory totally discards the relationship between these two. So therefore, the shape of the yield curve generally will depend on the factors that determine the supply and demand for short-term, intermediate term, and the long-term bonds. Then some of the other economic factors like GDP, growth rate, expected inflation, credit risk, and all kinds of things. So if there is a change in all kinds of factors, so changes in these factors will cause a change in the structure of the interest rate, and that will basically be reflected by the different shifts and the twist in the yield curve. So there is no such direct relationship basically we can expect between the long-term and short-term interest rates in the market. For example, if the yield curve is initially led positively sloped, and any economic or financial condition has changed the or maybe any change in the economic or financial condition increase the short-term treasury bills rate. So obviously your yield curve is going to be changed. So if the yield curve is initially negatively sloped, then the rate change would cause the curve to become even more negatively sloped. There is a possibility. Or it can also go in the reverse way if the changes are in the favorable or changes in the basically will happen in that particular conditions. So the market segmentation theory totally discards this relationship between this long-term and short-term. That basically theory tells that the supply and demand forces within that particular segment will determine that what kind of interest rates will prevail in the market. In relation to this market segmentation theory, there is another theory sometimes we come across that is called the preferred habitat theory. Okay. So here, what is the basic notion of the preferred habitat theory? This theory basically assumes that the investors and borrowers are willing to give up their desired maturity segment if the rates are attractive. If the rates are attractive. That means the investors and borrowers will be induced to forego their perfect hedges and shift out their preferred maturity segment when the supply and demand conditions in different maturity markets don't match. Supply and demand conditions in the different maturity segment don't match. In a simplistic way, if you see, what does it mean? For example, if one market, there is a disequilibrium between the supply and demand. Let in the short-term market, there is a disequilibrium. So then there is a possibility that there may be some switchover from one maturity segment to another maturity segment if really the interest rates or yield are quite attractive in that particular segment. Somebody can move from one segment to another segment if they find that the interest rates are quite lucrative or quite attractive in that particular part. So in that case, there is a possibility there is maybe a switchover. Some of the investors may be inclined to, they don't need to invest in the long-term market, but they find that the long-term market interest rates are quite attractive. So in that case, they can switch over from one particular segment to another segment. Even if their horizon period, the requirements are not matching with their demand for that particular kind of security. For example, if you see, there is an economy where more investors want short-term investments and more borrowers want to borrow long-term. Are you getting my point? Hello, Priyansa.
Yes, sir.
Priyansa, no discussion, nothing. Are you getting or you are not getting? I'm not getting anything.
No, sir, I am getting.
So let, for example, if I'll give a hypothetical situation, there is a market where more investors want short-term investments, but more borrowers want to borrow long-term. Then obviously the market is not in the equilibrium. Yes or no? I want to.
Yes, sir.
If it is not in the equilibrium, then what will happen? If let तुमको शॉर्ट टर्म मार्केट में इन्वेस्ट करना चाहते हो बट बैंक तुमको देने के लिए नहीं चाहता है, बैंक इज रेडी टू प्रोवाइड यू द लॉन्ग टर्म लोन्स or the companies are ready to provide the long term bonds. In that case, what basically will happen? Then what will happen? In the long term market, what will happen? There is excess supply in the long term market. Yes or no?
Yes, sir. And lack of demand in the short term market.
Okay. So then what will happen in the long term market में क्या होगा पहले बताओ. The excess supply would force the issuers to lower their bond prices.
Yes,
Yes
sir.
or no?
Interest rate will go up.
So the interest rate will go up. Good. So if the interest rate will go up, then what will happen? That will induce some investors to change their short-term investment demands. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
That will induce some investors to change their short-term investment demands. And in the short-term market, the excess demand would cause bond prices to increase. Yes or no? And the interest rates to follow.
Yes, sir.
So that will induce some corporations or some companies to finance their long-term assets by selling the short-term assets. Yes. So then what will basically happen in the two different markets? Ultimately, the equilibrium in both markets should be reached with long-term rates higher than the short-term rates. So
Yes,
that basically is nothing but the premium which is necessary to compensate the investors and the borrowers or the issuers for the market risk they have assumed. So any disequilibrium, any one of the segments can change the price and the yield of that particular security. Then ultimately, some kind of changes will occur. And finally, that shift from one segment to another segment will make this particular market equilibrium or will bring the market to the equilibrium stage. So the preferred habitat theory, what basically tries to, maybe we can relate it to the market segmentation theory. The market segmentation theory basically completely assumes that there is no relationship between the short-term and long-term markets, and the interest rates are determined on the basis of the demand-supply forces within that particular segment. But the preferred habitat theory tells that if for any reason there is disequilibrium in that particular market due to the difference in terms of the supply and demand forces, then there is a possibility can one particular segment's investor can shift, or on one particular segment's issuer can also shift to the other segment. Then ultimately one equilibrium position can be established, and that particular, in this condition, whatever example we have taken, hypothetical situation we have taken, so there we have seen that obviously your long-term rates will be higher than the short-term rates, and the yield curve will be rising. So the reverse condition also you can assume, depending upon the requirements, depending upon the market condition, this kind of situation may arise. So that's why the two different markets on the basis of their maturity are not completely independent. So there is some kind of dependency can happen between them, and that dependency will happen whenever there is a disequilibrium within this particular segment. So there will be a transformation which can happen in terms of the price and yield. Then ultimately that will come back to the equilibrium whenever this kind of changes will occur. So these are the four different hypotheses or four different theories what we can always see whenever we are trying to examine or trying to determine the shape of the yield curve, trying to see the relationship between the long-term and short-term interest rates, or how the long-term interest rate is determined within that particular segment. So this is what about the term structure interest rate theories. So these theories tries to explain that why there is a difference in the long-term and short-term interest rate, and what are those factors which determine that. Mostly the risk factor, the liquidity premium, then as well as the term to maturity. These are the major factors which determine the difference between the long-term and short-term interest rates in the market. Okay, we can stop here. So